Hello there, croeso and welcome. I'm Shadow Lemmax and I'm on Gran Turismo 7 to show you how I got gold on the S license test, the super license test. Normally I would put what assists I use at the beginning of the video, but I'm using different assists in different tests. It's usually just traction control on and off, but still. For the first one, it's in the Lambo on the high speed ring, and it's flat out all the way around the first corner, using the 200 meter board as your braking marker for this corner. And then once you accelerate out, you're looking for the 100 meter board on your left here, brake just after it, down to third, don't go into second like the computer wants you to. You want more traction when you accelerate, the higher gear provides that. Ideally you want to stay tight to the corner there on the left, but I drift out wide. When you spot the tunnel though, start accelerating. Move over to the left here so you get yourself a better corner and a better entry into this final corner. Little dab of the brake, down to fourth, and then feathering the throttle, keeping the speed, keep yourself high on the corner. When you feel that you've got the grip, just accelerate then, all the way to the finish. Be careful, the Lambo does like to get a bit twitchy, as do most of the mid-engine cars on Gran Turismo, so a bit of traction control on one tends to help with that problem. The second track then, we got a Ferrari F50 at Monza, and this is a real fun one to do, but this is just a standard road car, so be aware of your braking zones. You're going to brake just before the 200 meter board, and that's your braking point. All the way down to first. Stay tight to the corners. Ride the sausage curbs just a bit, but not too much. Wait until you're out of the chicane before you start accelerating again, otherwise the car will just spin on the spot. Be gentle with the steering through here. It is flat out, but you can get it wrong by being too hard on the steering. Brake just before the 150 board, all the way down to second. You think you can carry more speed through here, but you really can't. The car just can't handle it. You're looking for the 50 meter board, brake just a bit, get tight to the inside, and then accelerate down to the 50 meter board again for the second Turismo. Taking a healthy chunk of inside curve there, running it out wide, and then accelerating once you've got yourself straight again. A little bit of traction control does help, but you still need to be careful and gentle on the throttle. I reckon you can brake. I brake just about the 175 meter mark, but I reckon you can brake at the 150 board and be fine for a Ascari. Don't go full throttle through any of those corners. Just feathering the throttle to keep yourself stable until you get to the exit, and then it's full throttle all the way down to the final corner. Braking sort of between 100 and 150 boards, down to third, and when you feel the traction back in the car, you want to get on the throttle as soon as possible. The sooner you can get on the throttle, the more speed you'll carry to the exit. Hug the right to save yourself some distance, and if you got it right, you'll get around a 201. This one is quite tricky, the Nissan Sylvia, and if you get this track right, you'll do it in under a minute, and there is a trophy for doing this course in under a minute. Brake down to second for the first corner, stick to the inside, and accelerate out using all the track width. As you come over this little corner here, brake to go into the hairpin. Use the camber to help yourself accelerate out. Lift off the throttle here, don't brake, and then pick up the throttle once you're through the corner. You then flat out all the way down to this hairpin, wait for the track to straighten up before you start braking. And then once you spot the exit of the corner, accelerate out and drift out wide to get yourself a clean acceleration out of that slow corner. A little dab of the brake, down to fourth, hug the inside, and get on the accelerator again as soon as you feel that you can. There we go, a sub 1 minute lap. Now we got the Group 3 Toyota Supra, one of the Tokyo expressways, and this car's got a lot of grip. Brake just after the 50, throw it into the corner, trust it'll stick, get on the accelerator as soon as you can, using all the track width. That's the key and the trick to this one, is using all the track width. Be as brave as you can, get as close to the wall as you can. We're going to brake here just before the 100-meter board. I sort of just miss the second apex, but I always do that so I can get a better line through these last two exits. The aim is to get on the accelerator as soon as possible. Just after the 50-meter board then, dab the brake, down the gear, back on the accelerator as soon as you can. Don't follow the racing line here, stick to the left. This is going to be flat out all the way down to the big hairpin at the end of the straight. Making as few movements as you can, making the track as straight as possible, which minimises the distance travelled and less chance of spinning out and hitting the wall. Brake just before the 100-meter mark. I brake a little bit too late, but I'm able to keep the speed around the outside and keep my exit speed high enough to set a good time. Accelerating then all the way down to this section, little tricky section. Dab of the brake, drop down to 4, back on the accelerator quickly, back up to 5th then, and then feathering the throttle through this little section. Again, you're braking well after the 50-meter mark, literally just before the corner for most of these corners. But you do need to get your braking done before you enter. Don't want to be trail braking here because you want to accelerate through the corners. And there we go, a 1:59.2 for that test. And now we got one of the tests that used to be bugged. We used to have to try and do this in racing hard tyres, but not anymore. Back on dirt tyres like you should be, and it's much easier. No braking through there, just send it in hard, feather the throttle over these jumps, and again, a little feather of the throttle before you go into that corner, but still no braking. But brake into here, down to 3rd, you drift out wide, and then you accelerate all the way through the exit, carrying massive speed down to this corner, which I consistently get wrong. So I brake really early, down to 3rd, get the back end out, and just hope that by the time I start gripping and accelerating, I haven't hit the wall on the right. It is now flat out all the way through here. Be easy on the steering, because you don't want to oversteer too much, otherwise you're going to lose speed. This is a flat out section. As you come over this little lip, that's when your braking point, down to 3rd, get the back end out. And if you get the car pointed in the right direction, you'll just end up with a nice line through those S's. Drop down to 2nd for this hairpin, power your way around it with the back end out, and then you've got to get a little bit lucky with these jumps. I feather the throttle over them, but I've ended up in the pit lane or in the wall, just being sent off whatever direction the game decides. But it turns out I absolutely smashed the goal time by almost 1.8 seconds. All my Wreckfest experience coming back to help me there. The Shelby Cobra Trout Mountain. This is a tricky car to drive. I'm using the demonstrator ghost to help me identify where I needed to carry speed and where I was losing speed. It's tricky. The car likes to spin out. Feathering the throttle through that first section, you brake just as you get to the tunnel. I brake too late and you can see the demonstrator ghost is already gone. Brake then down to 2nd, take as much to the inside as you dare and get on the accelerator as soon as you dare. But the back end will try and step out on you. Brake down to 2nd here. Once you get the accelerating, get up to 3rd, brake when you're in the tunnel. So you get a nice tight line here, get on the accelerator as soon as you can to take advantage of this long straight. The gear changes are important here. Don't want to change too early, don't want to change too late as well and miss your gear. You can lose a lot of time. You're going to brake just before you see the corner, the curve, the blue and white curve there on the right. Take it down to second, again accelerate out. Try and keep a hold of the back end as it tries to squirm its way out from under you, even with traction control on. Little feather of the throttle through there and then brake down to second. Hug the inside, accelerate and drift yourself out wide here. Cut back then to the right, brake as you're going, just as you're about to get to the flat, but as you're going downhill, so you get the inside nicely. Accelerate to the outside, and you're going to brake just as you pass the curb, the white and blue curb, down to second. You feel like you're going so slow, but any faster and this car will spin out. Little dab of the throttle, get into that corner, and then accelerate all the way to the end. I even dropped traction control down to 0 just for this bit, just for that little bit of extra speed as I'm accelerating towards the finish. And that was quite tough for me, that one, but not as tough as this one. This is once you know what you're doing, it's pretty straightforward, but you've got to be brave, and there's a steep learning curve. Looking for the 2 board on your right, it's when you brake down to second, pick up the throttle again, but not full throttle. Always wait until out of the corner before you go full throttle in this car. Around there in third, little lift there, then back on the throttle. It's so fast. Looking for the 2 board, drop down 2 gears to 4, back on the throttle, and power through that corner. No braking here, just a lift, turn in, and accelerate all the way up here to the corkscrew. If you're coming over that lift before the corkscrew, that's when you start braking down to second. Don't get onto full throttle until you're out of the second part. Full throttle all the way around there. If you drop down a few gears for this, and drop down to first for this corner, braking just before the 2 mark. And then you power all the way to the line to set what is a decent 1 minute 6 lap. I had a lot of trouble with this, mainly just because I'm not brave enough. This track, on the other hand, was the exact opposite. I got a gold on my very first attempt because I very much like this circuit. This is Interlagos in Brazil. You're braking just after the 50-meter board. Don't get on the grass like I did. So you can turn in. See, I'm feathering the throttle, can't quite go full throttle. I'm feeling the car wants to slide out, but a little bit of feathering helps you there. You're looking for the 100-meter board, and that's your braking point for this corner. You then accelerate all the way down here as we come up to the infield section of Interlagos. Brake between the 100 and the 50-meter mark, and only a little dab. You then just let the car drift around those 2 corners. Brake here down to second, cut as much of that as you can on the inside. A little dab of the throttle, but you just let off then straight into this left-hander, which is long and lazy. Then down here again, cut as much of that inside curb as you can. Accelerate a little bit, then lift off the throttle, but don't brake. Once you feel the grip, then carry on accelerating. Brake just before the 50-meter board, down to second, get it straightened out, and then you accelerate all the way down here to the finish line. Normally what you should do is hug the left-hand side of the track to shorten the distance to the finish line, but I didn't actually think I was going to set a good enough time right off the bat, so I didn't bother with that, but turns out I did. It shows what knowledge and enjoyment of a track will do. And this is another track I enjoy, Trial Mountain in the Nissan GTR. Brake just after the 100-meter board, down to third. Once you get the cut back for the apex, back on the throttle. use the curve there on the right, and you're going to take a healthy chunk of curb here. Not really braking, just using your gears and feathering the throttle to get yourself around. Down to second here, just let the car track all the way around, and when you can see the exit, that's when you start accelerating. Take a little chunk of curb here, dab the brake to hug the inside, and then brake here just as you get to that little concrete colour change over the bridge. That's always your braking point, no matter what car you're in pretty much, for this course. Important to get it right though, because if you get it wrong, you lose speed all the way down this straight. It's flat out here, and you're braking just before the 100-metre mark. Down to second. I don't like going to first in this car. Don't really have the confidence on the accelerator. I'm not using traction control, if you notice. So I keep it in second, and then it's now flat out all the way to the finish. Really enjoy this corner. Don't know why. I like that section of corners once you get out the hairpin. And there we have it. Just a gold. Just is good enough to get what you're after. And then the last test of them all, the Porsche 917 at Spa. I am using chase cam here because I had real trouble keeping on the dry line. If you notice, there's a dry line. It's a damp track, but there's a dry line, and you're on slicks. You put one wheel on that damp bit, and you're in trouble. A little dab of the brake just before you get to a rouge, drop it down to third, hold the accelerator as much as you can without the car twitching out. Again, I'm using the demonstrator ghost to see where I'm losing speed and where I'm losing time. Look at the 150-metre boards, and that's when you start braking then for this section here. Just on the throttle just a little bit, just to keep your speed, but never too much. Then you're looking for that little patch of water there on the left, and that's your braking point for this hairpin here. Again, be patient with the throttle. Don't go full throttle until you can keep your car pointing straight. It will just spin out. There is so much power in this car. Braking at about the 75-metre mark, and this is where I'm going to start losing the demonstrator ghost. Down to second, up to third then for the second part of this left-hand corner. You're never going full throttle until you're on the straight. Braking just before the bridge, down to second. Take as much of the inside as you can, but it is wet, so it's easy to spin out. Up to third, and then back down to second. Just on the throttle just a little bit, just get yourself around the corner, and then when you're pointing straight, that's when you accelerate. Now the demonstrator takes this next left-hander flat out. I can't do that, so a little bit of the brake, literally like 5% of the throttle, and then another brake down to third here, back on the throttle, and then flat out once you're getting the car pointed straight. Just after the 150-metre board is when you start braking for the final chicane here. Make a little mistake there, get on the power too soon, and then once you're out of the corner, that's when you accelerate all the way to the finish. And there you have it, all the S-Class tests gold. It took a while. I'm using the controller, so it took a bit of learning how to get the handling right for those courses. So stick with it. Diolch, and thank you for watching.